Hi, my name is Rose Kirungu.
Reverend Henok Kirungu.
Pastor Bless.
Pastor Steve.
I'm Peter Hato.
Moses Maundu is my name.
Kevin Kinusu Kinyangi.
Grace Munga.
Caleb Kagera.
Elder Michael Odero.
Jeff Yeriot.
Karazuri Michelle Paul.
Calvin John.
Tomana. Lena. And Rachel.
I take this opportunity to welcome all of you into our 11th anniversary celebration.
Every great forest begins with a single seed. But in the heart of Kitengela, our story didn't begin with a seed. It began with a yes. 11 years ago, at GCI Central Church, a small group was commissioned. They weren't just moving to a new location, they were carrying a vision to Kajiado County.
We started as a growth center whereby we combined all the members of GCI Central who are living in Kitengela. And we start having our early meetings at the Betty Business Center, which is opposite Kitengela Mall alongside Namanga Road. And we met there for about 6 months, from around October 2014 until when we were officially commissioned the following year in February at the GCI Central.
One of the things I keep remembering about Kitengela is our entrance. We reached a rad, which was I think a quarter in Safaricom, and I remember it was December 2014. The community refused us there, and we had that is the current pastor, Reverend Henok, and Pastor Buru. They had to go to Kajiado, Nema, because we had already been taken there, that we are because of noise pollution by the community in Safaricom. And we struggled that December, and finally that's how we gave up.
What I liked about that, it gave us an opportunity, because I remember we went back to my place and we had fellowship, and it was quite interesting. We enjoyed ourselves, we prayed over it, and my house since then has been a blessing for me.
The journey led us to the 4th floor of Kingston building. Elevated above the streets of Kitengela, the upper room became our reality.
We found a place in Kingston House, where we were given we had our first venue in the 4th floor of Kingston House. And immediately the following Sunday, after we were commissioned in Central, the following Sunday we were launched at the 4th floor. It was a good day. My mother was alive. When we finished that day, she said she won't come to 4th floor because she was not able to climb. She had a problem with her legs. But we had made the organization that we meet at the ground floor. Just there was an open space there, and we thought we'll set up tents there and meet there. But that night, everything changed. When the landlord came and they put some tiles, and the 4th floor was looking so beautiful, more beautiful than the ground open space. And therefore, a decision was made that we have to meet and launch in the 4th floor, where it's going to be where we shall have our launch. And it was good. Now, I came with my mother, and the challenge was how to reach 4th floor. I remember that challenge until today, but I thank God for great brethren here were able to. They decided to do what she didn't want. They carried her to 4th floor. They didn't tell her it's 4th floor, but they carried her until 4th floor, and she was there to witness our launch, and that's really excited me, for she was present. I didn't know that it was going to be one of the last meetings we're going to have with her here in GCI Kitengela.
Under the leadership of Reverend Henok Kirungu and Reverend Steve Mburu, the ministries began to take shape. Sunday school, men's and women's fellowship, family ministry, prayer ministry, praise and worship ministry, compassion ministry, and many more.
When we began the church at Kingston House, we were so committed to God because we were building something and we didn't have an experience. So we were looking up to God to help us actually establish the Church of God in Kitengela. So we did a lot of evangelism just to help the church growth.
Kingston was a womb for our first baby dedications, our first discipleship graduations, our first baptisms, and our first wedding.
When we had our first wedding, that was Baraza and Fro, it looks interesting that at once we are having a wedding, and after that we had many weddings that came over, and then we had babies. But now we started dedicating our own children. And now when you look at those children, it's so amazing to see how they have grown. They are a testimony to us that we are growing. And the ones we went with, some of them being my sons and others who are ministry, they were young boys, they were young girls, and now they are the ones taking up leadership. So it tells us we are also grooming leadership, that we are not just thinking about ourselves, we are looking at the future where the young generation also can take responsibility.
Our season at Kingston was coming to an end.
Kingston House was very good for us. It was beautiful, it was ambient, and we didn't want to move to any other place in Kitengela apart from moving to our own piece of land, as using the script of RCPS. So following that script, we said we were going to stay here at Kingston House until when we shall move to we can only move to our own piece of land from here. But 3 years down the line, we had some challenges with the landlady. She was a landlady, and she wanted to double the rent. We tried to talk to her and tell her that first of all, it's not within the market price, because we know the market rates of Kitengela, and secondly, we don't want to waste God's resources. But she couldn't budge, she couldn't allow us, and therefore a decision was made that now, because we're not ready to move to our own piece of land, we had identified some few pieces of land, but said no, we're not going to move quickly. Let's identify another place, and immediately we found Taluma House.
This wasn't just another rented hall, it was a place of spiritual fortification. At Taluma House, the call deepened. It was a season of fortification and spiritual growth, marked by the official ordination of our lead pastor, Reverend Enoch Kirungu. At Taluma, our hearts for the world grew. We went out on missions, we played together as families, and we became a visible force in Kitengela. But even as we settled in, a holy restlessness began to stir. We moved beyond our walls through missions and bonded during family fun days.
We had built ourselves because many of us now had been filled by the power of the Holy Spirit, and we were so much united. You remember the church in the book of Acts, chapter number 2, verses 42, how people had come together and they were united. So we were one thing, and the church was growing.
When we began with around 4 growth centers. Now we are around 8 growth centers spread across different areas in Kitengela and in Athi River. And the numbers have also grown. We have a mix of online and attendance and also physical attendance. But the most importantly is just the growth centers making sure they do what they're supposed to do, where we are seeing that them being centers of growth in terms of physically, spiritually, and other areas of our lives.
To settle permanently, we had to find land in Kitengela for our sheepfold. This was a challenge, but only the first step. The real miracle was the yes from the people. At Taluma, a spirit of radical generosity took over. From the youngest to the oldest, the congregation gave wholeheartedly, laying their treasures down to secure our future. It was time to find a place we could truly call home.
Our vision was quite huge, because when I look at it from where we've come from, what we did with a small group, I can say surely the Lord has been with us, because we were looking for 2 acres. Remember, most of us, even from the central church, were being advised to go for 1. But I think we had the vision and said, we're not going to go for 1, we're going to go for 2. But looking at the number of people that we had was quite a small number. So yes, we had a lot of sessions and meetings, a few families. With the amount that we bought the land, when I look back now, about 10 or 15 families raising 15.5 million, you can only say that has been God on our side.
In 2020, the world stopped. COVID-19 closed our doors at Taluma, but it couldn't silence our praise. While the physical building was silent, our fellowship moved to the digital airwaves. Every Sunday afternoon, we gathered online, not just to hear a word, but to hold each other up, checking in on every family to ensure no one was left behind in the storm.
We were used to a warm fellowship of brethren. And then so when COVID hit, as leaders, we got a moment of saying, what can we do to keep reaching out to our people, to the church that we serve? We didn't have fancy cameras, we didn't have a strong media team, so we only had Android phones, And then we sat and we said we need to start fellowshipping so that we don't lose members, especially those who are growing up, those who are reaching out. And we started recording our services. We would meet on a Saturday and we were conducting a service. You would imagine that everybody is there in the service, because it is out of that we have grown to have a media team. We get to buy equipment, and right now we are reaching to a greater community through recording our services every Sunday. We are online. We are also conducting our Bible studies online, and that have been a great achievement.
Most saw COVID as a season of loss. We saw it as a window of opportunity. With the funds mobilized at Taluma, we made our move. It was time to leave the rented halls of men and step onto the soil God had promised us.
So immediately after COVID, we said we are not going back there. In fact, we are not sure whether the money will continue flowing. We said, let's pay a deposit to buy this piece of land. But we could not comply with the requirements of purchase of land, the regulations for purchase of land. And it requires that a deal must be settled within 90 days. But with the cash flow, we could not. But we could be able to focus and say in 1 year's time, we will be able to pay for this 1 acre piece of land. Graciously, when we spoke to the landlord, Pinnacle, they accepted that proposal. We saw them every month. There's a certain amount we'll be paying, and they gave us a 1 year grace period, and it was easy for us, and it was very good for them.
We didn't just walk onto our land, we danced onto it. After years of climbing 4th floor stairs and renting halls, our feet finally touched the soil that belonged to the vision.
We didn't start meeting in this building. When we came to this land, we were meeting in tents, several tents for Sunday school, for the main church.
But the winds of Kitengela tested our resolve.
The greatest challenge was the wind. It was a Friday afternoon. We had just finished preparing for Sunday, and the wind came and it blew. And the whole tent, 4 of them were turned upside down. The metal bars were shattered. Everything was scattered. The only thing that escaped unscathed was the glass pulpit that was standing right at the middle of the tent. And it was such a devastating event.
There was one day when we moved from our Taluma house and we came to our church where we had tents. And that Sunday, nature decided to take its course. The funniest moments, people started moving chairs so that, because the rain started raining in the church, and we had to put buckets just to hold the water, and it was messy because now people did not concentrate with the preaching and went on concentrating with the water that is pouring inside the church, and people are looking all over, and the preacher had to stop and people just move a bit, and it was quite a moment, and people are like, it is enough. We need to move to our main church where we will serve the Lord with peace, without distractions, without nature interfering with our spiritual hearing from God.
But in his own time, he makes all things beautiful.
Right now, being in our new sanctuary is such a fulfillment.
By 2022, we decided if the wind wanted to blow, it would have to blow against something unshakable.
So we faced all those challenges and we said we must have a permanent solution. We must move to a sanctuary.
It was really not a very easy challenge because remember we had just moved from what we call the land purchase committee, and by the time we were taking up as the building committee, we had just finished paying our last tranche for the land. So it means you're now transitioning people from buying land to now building a sanctuary. So initially we thought that the building will cost us, it's a sheepfold, it will cost us around 10 million shillings until we got the figures. But I think we were somehow tricked because, the architect drew the church and gave us a beautiful picture. And when Reverend showed us the picture, you know, on the screens, everyone was like, yeah, that's the church that we want. We didn't know how big and magnanimous that was until we got the figures. The church was going to cost us 38 million Kenya shillings. So that was a little bit of a challenge. But I mean, how do we walk as believers if we do not, you know, confront things that are bigger than, you know, our capacity? So I think that was the beginning of us as a building committee and as a church, you know, looking at this sanctuary as a walk of faith and not really something that we can do with our own strength. And one of our memorable Sundays was when the deputy DGO and the DGO came to our sanctuary, and we had that big caterpillar and they did the first groundbreaking. That was really memorable, you know, and that really now confirmed to the church that we are actually building. And I really thank God that today we see the walls of the church have gone up, at least we have a roof, and the next remaining steps, because of where the Lord has taken us from, we believe is not going to be a challenge.
From a commissioned few to a congregation of 130 souls, we are no longer just finding land, we are standing on it. This hasn't just been about numerical growth, but individual spiritual growth.
I joined this church when I was in class 7, and from that time it has been amazing. I've gained a lot. I also feel like I've grown a lot into the young man that I am today. And what excites me about this church is we are free, we are open, there are leaders who we can talk to. Like atufeel ni kama tumefungiwa. Yeah, iko very vibrant.
I am in Sky Blue class and I love my church. I'm in white class, and the thing I like about church is it's that it teaches us about God and it brings us closer to God.
I can say I've learned a lot of things, a lot of experience. Now I'm a youth of this church, and it has been a great journey since Form 1 until right now. Last year we went for a seminar. It was one of the greatest experience I had because the people who were brought here were so good that they inspired my heart to work for God.
Nilikuja hapa 2024 August, lakini by then sikuwa nimeokoka. Niliokoka nikiwa mahali hapa. Mwanzo nilianza na Tuesday prayers, nikakuja hivyo, nikafika mahali, nikaona heri ningie main service ambayo ni Sunday.
I first of all joined a growth center. I used to attend a growth center before I actually came to church. But the love I found there, the people who were in that growth center, they welcomed me, they showed me love. I felt at home first even before I came to GCI. I came here and I have grown. Actually, I was saved, but I didn't know Christ. I had no the relationship I have with Christ as I have today. When I came to GCI, I have grown, I have experienced God. Today I'm serving in ushering ministry, and in ushering I have found fulfillment. I feel like I am in the place I am supposed to be.
GCI Kitengela has been a good ground for growth. I transited from being a growth center pastor, and then within no time, I was again called to be the ministry leader in charge of growth centers and also supporting the church in receiving visitors, welcoming them to church and telling them who we are. And again, recently, I was called to be the deacon in charge of growth centers. So I can say that GCI Kitengela has been a great place for me to grow as a leader in ministry, and I'm looking forward to grow together with the church.
Psalms chapter 2 verse 8, ask me and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession.
Kajiado is vast. We trust God that in future we are going to have church branches in all the sub-counties in Kajiado. So we have several towns. We have Kiserian, we have Rongai, we have Isinya, we have Kajiado town, we have Namanga, we have Loitoktok, and several other potential places for the church to grow.
11 years of grace, 11 years of growth, and this is only the beginning. Happy anniversary, GCI Kitengela.
I want to recognize great men and women of God who worked with us to come and participate in several meetings, missions, starting from the General Executive Council. Our General Overseer supported us very well. We've had men of God who have come to stand with us spiritually. By the late Reverend Simon Mwasia, our General Secretary, Reverend Steve Garuya, our first support pastor, Reverend Ken Monyoncho, Apostle Titus Kiange, Pastor Reverend Jason Perry, all the way from the United States of America, the Evangelist Mwasota, all the way from Tanzania, Kitengela Pastors Fellowship, and many other men of God have stood with us to pray with us, to support us in very many other ways. May the Lord richly bless them. It's been a great run, and we thank God for this far He has brought us. Nikae straight hivi. Hivi. Hivi ni sawa? Na hivi? Okay.
Niangalie kamera. Oh, look at Faith. Okay.
He wants it to be like kind of like
Okay. Niko mbali sana. Naona kama niko mbali sana lakini iko sawa.
hiyo kicheko lazima utaiweka. Nani nikufundisha kila kitu?
Yeah, I talked about church and I forgot to say who I am.
Unanifanyia hivyo na KKD. This family likes harassing me.
You just repeat and say welcome everyone to the 11th anniversary.
I said 10th.
Yeah.
Oh my God.